have more
Every
chances.
time ASU has embarked on strike, the revitalization fund has often come up, and people have asked the question.
The Newsroom, Mondays 6:15 to 7 p.m. on your number one talk station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
A very good evening to you wherever you are tuned in to the nation's number one talk station. 99.3 Nigeria Info is the dial. And of course, today is the 30th of February 2023. It is also World Radio Day, observed on this day, with the aim of highlighting the significance of radio. Radio dates all the way back to the mid-19th century, and it's a great way to celebrate different ways people are alike and different and give people a chance to talk. I've always loved radio. Matter of fact, I knew from a very tender age that I was most likely going to be a journalist or broadcaster because radio has always been a part of me. Shout out, by the way, to the veterans Jacob Akinyemi Johnson and Femi Showolu, two of my favorite broadcasters growing up, who I would say in my later years as a teenager, in my late 20s, learned quite a lot from them. Also, the 13th of February is a very significant day in Nigerian history. Sadly, as a result of history not being taught in schools, many people do not remember. Well, I'll let you know, because on this day in 1976, Nigeria's former military head of state, the man you see on your 20 Naira note, General Murtala Mohammed, was assassinated right here in Lagos on his way to work. And his deputy at the time, or his second in command at the time, a certain Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo, took over the realm of affairs and became Nigeria's head of state the following day, February the 14th. And of course, he ruled up until he relinquished power to civilians, Shehu Shagari to be precise, in 1979. And of course, you do know that Olusegun Obasanjo came back in 1999 and was elected president of Nigeria. He ruled for 8 years until 2007. But back to today in history, February the 13th, 1976, the day Nigeria's former military head of state, General Murtala Mohammed, was assassinated via a military coup. Anyway, moving away from all of that, guys, how's the money scarcity situation in your area? How is it? Has transfer has been working? Well, mine has been working, at least when I need it. I've had to a large extent, to add extra 500 or 1,000 naira to persons who I buy things for or who I have to pay for services just because I don't have cash. A sad situation. I would say I'm one of the lucky few. There are 1,001 Nigerians who are going through hardship as we speak as a result of the scarcity of Naira. Last week, Wednesday, was a big day. The Supreme Court, gave an interim order asking the Central Bank of Nigeria from continuing with its deadline of February the 10th for the use of the old 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes as legal tenders. In 2 days' time, that's Wednesday precisely, that matter will be up for hearing. And of course, we would know for certain what exactly is the true state of the situation. You heard on our news that, of course, the president of the country, President Muhammadu Buhari, had a meeting with the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, earlier today. We are yet to get the details of that meeting. By the way, seems like I forgot. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno, and it feels good to welcome you to another edition of the Newsroom. We will talk about the big issue today, which is, of course, the Naira scarcity. And, of course, we also have a health conversation later on the program, a continuation of our conversation on cancer, which we had last week. Sadly, network issues ensured I was unable to join the show, but my good friend here and colleague Emmanuel Onwoka did a good job. He did a wonderful job
of course.
Last week.
Of course. Why you were away? Well done. Well done. And what have you got for me?
I bought you granuts. Anyway, not so much time on the show. So quickly, guys, let us start with let us take a look at, of course, the issue of the Naira scarcity that has really been biting us hard here. And we have joining us on the show at this point in time a business analyst, Mr. Tunde Amolegbe. I hope I pronounced that name well. I was told how to pronounce it in the newsroom.
Amolegbe.
And I've gotten here and I've forgotten. Mr. Tunde, a very good evening to you. Are you there right now?
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
The pronunciation is Amolegbe.
Amolegbe. I was told though. I kept pronouncing it very well, and then I got here, and 2 seconds I've forgotten. My apologies.
It's okay. It's fine.
We're trying to laugh off the crazy issues we actually have bedeviling us right here. But earlier yesterday, the Nigerian Governors Forum said that Nigeria might be heading to another recession as a result of the issues we've had over the last couple of weeks. Do you think that might be the case?
It's a possibility, clearly. But we hope that this peculiar situation does not drag long enough, such that it leads this economy to a recession. As you know, recessions just don't happen overnight. They happen over time, and you will agree with me, that this situation we find ourselves seems to be a man-made situation. You change your currency. It's a deliberate decision. It's a deliberate policy. And if that is what is dragging down the economy, I will assume that the solution too is such that we can come up with ourselves and be able to get ourselves out of it. Since it's essentially a situation that we sort of created by ourselves via the policies we've chosen to implement, and that's why we are where we are at the moment. So my hope is that it does not drag, to the point where it leads this economy to a recession. Unfortunately, I hope we don't get there, and for the sake of the Nigerian economy and the Nigerian people in general.
Okay, so let's take a critical look at the Naira redesign policy. I don't even need to make the allegations, because the president himself granted an interview. I think it was sometime late last year, and I think it was to Premium Times. He granted that interview to, and he sort of alluded to the fact that there is a political connotation to this policy. Like it seemed like it was a case of trying to stop as much as possible vote buying, because, like you said, in other times, in other countries, when these policies are made, you allow it over a stretch of time, over a period of time, a lengthy period, such that people take their time to get in sync with it. But this one has like a timeline 3 months or there. I think it started from sometime in November or December. If my memory serves me right, and there's a deadline. Yes, the Supreme Court sort of cut that deadline at least until Wednesday. But why do we need to have that political connotation to it, such that a lot of Nigerians are now bearing the brunt?
In fact, Former, you have structured the question very aptly. I do not know any other country where military or physical policy is used as the tool to increase election integrity. All right, there are other tools, there are other agencies that can be made effective, such that if our aim is to increase the integrity of our election, the use of monetary policy or physical policy to do that, I don't know that is the direction we should be going, because monetary policies and physical policies have wide-ranging effects and wide-ranging impacts that could go beyond a narrow objective. And by narrow objective this time around, to ensure the integrity of an election, by using physical policy and impact. All right. Yes, some will argue that it is desirable that you try and eliminate vote buying. All right, in your election. But whether switching cash or trying to take cash out of the system is the way to achieve that purpose, is open to debate, because you have to look at the other unforeseen effect of such an action. Because even if we ultimately achieve election integrity by taking cash out of the system, preventing politicians from buying votes. All right. Look at the impact on the populace. Look at the impact on the economy itself. We're already talking about the possibility of entering a recession because of this. And honestly, even if we were to successfully curb the buying of votes using this particular tool, all right, the impact of it might not be such that will leave us in a shock. We already have a situation where even confidence in the financial sector is becoming tenuous now, because we have a situation where relatively less well-to-do people, their confidence in the banking system is now shaken. Because some of them are now feels that, okay, look, their money is quote-unquote trapped in the banking system, because they go into the bank, they go to the teller, and they ask for their money, and they're not to get it at the time they're supposed to get it. So what happens post-election? Are we going to be able to really convince these people to now trust the banking system, that if they put their money in the banking system, they will be able to collect it whenever they need it? Because at the moment, if they keep 20,000 in the bank, and they were to approach the bank to say they want to take 20,000, maybe they will be able to take a fraction of that, or maybe they will be able to take it at relatively huge cost to them. Right? So this the confidence, and the banking sector, I tell you, thrives on confidence. It is a structure that is built around confidence, and the confidence that people can approach their bank and get their deposit whenever they need it. All right. So if these circumstances is now shaking that confidence, it could very well be that the post-election impact of trying to use monetary policy to engender election integrity, the post-election impact might be much more than
might be worse off
trying to achieve.
Okay, yes. Just in case you're just tuned in, this is Nigeria's #1 talk station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. The program is the Newsroom, where of course we take a critical look at the biggest stories that the Nigeria Info Newsroom has covered over the past 1 week. And of course, unarguably the biggest story here in the last 1 week is the Naira redesign, and of course the Supreme Court's injunction from last week Wednesday. By the way, that matter will be decided, I think, or at least heard by the Supreme Court in 2 days' time, on the 15th of February precisely. Mr. Tunde, let's look at the allegations against the banks. One of my colleagues earlier today told me about how one of the banks that's just very close to our office right here in Victoria Island, is showing off online that it is working, but if you go to the bank, you're not allowed to come in. It's locked, except someone. The security guards come out and ask you, do you know anybody inside? Before they can even attend to you. So if you absolutely have no idea about anybody there, you can't even go into the banks. The banks have been accused of, one way or the other, not ensuring that this policy is implemented the way it ought to be. There have been accusations of them hoarding some of the cash. We've seen videos and pictures, of some banks having the cash but not dispensing it and allegedly selling it to POS operators and money changers and all that. What would you say about what the banks themselves, the commercial banks, have done to ensure that this policy is where it is right now?
You see, Ufuoma, there is just so much uncertainty in the here now, and so much lack of clarity as to what is going on within our banking system at the moment. And quite frankly, one has to just take it from the top. If the CBN is saying that the banking system has enough cash within it to be able to dispense to people, and then we have a situation where banks are shutting their branches or preventing people from coming into the bank to collect cash, despite the fact that the CBN, who by the way is also the regulator of these banks, have given a clear-cut directive that individuals can withdraw up to 20,000 over the counter, and yet these banks who are supposed to have this cash are not giving the money to the populace. Then the CBN, as a regulator, has the authority to actually sanction these banks.
How many they want sanction?
Until now, we have not even seen one being sanctioned.
I agree.
So it beggars the question that what is really going on here? Because if the CBN is saying that there is enough cash and the banks aren't dispensing this cash, how come none of them have been sanctioned till now?
Why are we not using the Naira option? Why are Nigerians, this was introduced almost a year ago if my memory serves me right, why are we not using it?
Well, I will assume that the Nigerians that have access to it are using it.
Okay. Oh dear, looks like the internet has decided to want to cut this very interesting conversation.
I will encourage thankfully as many Nigerians. The fact is that this policy is a policy.
Go ahead.
We're having now really is just about implementation. All right. So the issue we're having is more about implementation than anything else.
Okay.
All right. So in Naira, other transfer platforms and all of that are there for people to use. I guess the question that is being asked is that what happens to those Nigerians that do not have access to these platforms?
True.
Maybe, for instance, they do not have bank accounts.
True.
Maybe, for instance, they are not in locations that are close to banks.
True.
All right. We can do a cashless policy, but it requires that all the tools to make exchange of goods and services easy
have to be in place
before such policies are implemented.
Okay,
and are implemented within such a tight timeline.
Okay, Mr. Tunde, quickly as we wrap up the conversation, there, even with the negatives, even with the hardship, we can still say for sure that we've seen some little positive. I saw a start, of the rates of transfers and online transaction, and it's a sharp curve up. People, because that's the alternative. a lot of persons who probably don't do a lot of online transactions are now beginning to see that as an option. And
Yes.
of late, I haven't heard, or at least maybe I'm the one who hasn't heard, but it looks like the Naira and the dollar look like it's been stable over the last couple of weeks. Surely we can count those as some little positives.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier, this policy it is in itself has significant benefits that is derivable by the Nigerian economy and the monetary system. And you mentioned some of them. All right, and I'm sure there are even much more benefits that we could derive.
Okay.
What we are saying is that those benefits
Should
can
come with
be
a
had.
human face.
Oh yes, those benefits can be heard while we still implement this policy in a way that ensures transition is smooth and not chaotic.
Mr. Tunde, we would have to leave it at that. I totally enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I'm hoping that the next time, oh dear, looks like he is gone almost immediately. But I'm sure that the next time we bring you, you definitely want to join us. That was, of course, Mr. Tunde. He's a business analyst. Notice that I tried to avoid the surname. I didn't want to murder it again. Anyway, guys, it is the newsroom on Nigeria Info. Ufuoma Egbamuno is my name. I've got my partner in crime, Emmanuel Onwoka, in the studio with me. The next conversation we're going to have is one that really, I would say, touches me. Yeah. Mainly because I've lost a couple of friends or parents or friends to this ailment. And that's why, I feel very, very particular about this conversation. Last week, Saturday, 4th of February, it was World Cancer Day. And last week on the show, we started this conversation about cancer. Just in case you missed it, let's let you know that Nigeria is currently estimated to have over 230,000 cancer cases, and just over 78,000 of these persons die every year. You heard me right. Every year, over 78,000 Nigerians die of cancer. That's not a good story. Last week on the show, we had a consultant radiation and clinical oncologist who has over 16 years of experience on the show. He is back with us again on the show today. A very good evening to you, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Ufuoma.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks to have me on this show.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me here.
Unfortunately, I was unable to, be on the show last week because I had some technical issues. I couldn't join via network. Dr. Emmanuel Andero, sorry. Welcome to the newsroom. I would try and I'll try and go back a little on what we discussed last week on cancer. Why is it that we have rising cases of cancer despite the awareness that the media, or at least Nigerians, have tried to have about this ailment over the years?
Yeah. Thanks once again, Ufuoma, for having me around. And then I must commend your efforts with regards to, ensuring that Nigerians are aware of this, disease entity. Unfortunately, not everybody, or let me say most people are not aware of this disease condition called cancer until when they are personally hit, or somebody very close to them, has such an ailment before they get to know that, okay, there's something called cancer. Well, giving a little background to it, of course, cancer is not just a disease of Nigeria alone. It is global, and it is, given a lot of global concern because of certain peculiarity and the burden this entity, poses across the globe. And like you rightly say, of course, it's not only Nigeria. About 70% of, cancer-related death is found among third world countries, and Nigeria, of course, inclusive. Now, to quickly answer the question of why we are beginning to have a rise, well, this is not unconnected to certain factors. I did mention some during our previous conversation. And then, of course, I'm also going to go ahead to mention some very important factors accounting for this. Notably, we observe that in the past few decades, there have been certain changes, as it affects the lifestyle of Nigeria, because we are beginning to see more westernized lifestyle, as it also affects our diets, as it also affects consumption of certain, products. It's not uncommon to see more people engaging in smoking, more alcohol intake, and then the earning, so to say, of course, for an average Nigerian, could have also increased over the years. So that will also have a bearing on the purchasing power of certain products, and exposure to certain carcinogens too have also increased. Talking about maybe the kind of certain products being used, medications, cream, and all whatnot. What about these industrial revolutions? If you go to some major cities, you see, a lot of, pollutants. You would have had in recent time such a city, Port Harcourt, for instance, you heard about petroleum products, the way people do some illegal refining and everything.
Yeah, the suit that was a big issue. That's still a big issue.
Exactly. So all these things, they have some cumulative effect, and over time will lead to certain transformation. So summary, change in lifestyle, more exposure to industrial pollutants, the diets, westernized diets, and all kind of things, are of course very much connected to why we begin to see a rise.
So let me ask,
increase of cancer among Nigerians.
Let me ask you this question, because I've heard it a few times, and I'm not sure if it's the correct thing. I've had a few persons, say that microwaving food could increase the chances of getting cancer. How true is that?
Thank you, Foma. I've heard about this over and over and over again. I'll be quick to say here that as an individual, I use microwave almost on a daily basis, even as an oncologist. And I'll also be quick to say that microwave in itself has not been proven from any studies or research to be directly connected to, cancer, or formation of cancer.
Okay.
However,
my mind don't come down small. My mind don't come down small.
Not just the products. This is what I mean. what does a microwave do? It subjects the food to a kind of it goes through some kind of heating process.
Yeah.
And then the kind of material where the food is also being put, when the food undergoes a lot of heating process, there can be a breakdown of the compounds. Say, for instance, let me be more specific. It has been recommended and advised that you do not use certain plastic products to microwave your food over and over and over again, because some of them are not biodegradable. Under certain heating conditions and under certain temperatures, part of these products could form certain non-biodegradable compound with the kind of food we eat, and by the time they get into our system, they can become carcinogenic. Yes, so it is advisable most of the time. You can use all these, either glass products or these China wares rather than plastics that can melt so easily and form certain compound with your food. And when they get into your system, of course, they can be one of the risk factors that could lead to, or potentiate the, certain transformation or changes in the DNA, and, over time, can lead to cancer. So it is not microwave in itself. And it has also been advised that when you microwave your food, right, you don't cover with plastic as well.
Ooh.
You might want to use something like the paper base, or some kind of, all these China wares and,
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, quickly
Yeah.
now, let's talk about men and conversations about cancer. Because it feels to me like almost every time there's a conversation about cancer, we're quick to talk about breast cancer, which to a large extent, happens to women a lot. Why is it that men like you and I rarely have these conversations about cancer? For example, prostate cancer.
Yes, that is another very good question from our. You see, globally, right? I'll talk about the most common cancer, among women as being breast cancer. For men, it is prostate cancer globally. Now, but if you look at it overall, be it male or female, it still comes down to breast cancer as the most common cancers, that plague, men. When I say men, I mean, man and woman, I mean, men and women, right? So, prostate cancer, of course, we do not talk about it as much as we talk about breast cancer, in part because, like I said, breast cancer being the most common globally. But the fact remains that prostate cancer is still the most common, cancer among men. And it's not of any, less importance being discussed. And of course, like I did mention earlier, that 70% of death related to cancer is found among, in a third world country, and it's because we have poor screening programs and, enlightenment programs. And we are talking about not just cancers among, female alone, women alone, even among men.
Quickly. Okay.
How often do we...
Sorry to cut you there, Dr. Emmanuel. We're actually running out of time, so I'm trying to, get as much in the conversation as possible. So, what are the alternative ways that we can help to stem this ailment? How can we, solve the situation? Because it's an endemic. It's a problem. Over 78,000 dying every year is a problem. As quickly as you can, because time is not so on our side.
Yes, thank you very much. We wouldn't be able to talk so much about solutions without getting to know the risk factors. Right. Of course, there are the risk factors of cancer. They are multifactorial, but I'll talk about some very key ones. In fact, it has been said that from research and studies that about 20 to 30% of cancers are preventable and curable. And we are talking about those that are connected to, lifestyle, So lifestyle modification has affected our diet, for instance, right? I mean, eating right. I mean,
quit drinking.
Food rich in, food rich in, fruits and vegetables. Yes. Quitting drinking of alcohol because it's connected to such cancers as some liver cancer, and then smoking connected to lung cancer, right? And then of course active physical activity. All those are very important as part of
those of us that pay for gym
measures.
And never go to gym.
Of course,
I'm throwing a shade at myself.
And then regular screening is key for early detection of cancer, when it is still, non-invasive. I'm talking about, women from age 40 and above to make themselves available for mammogram. Men above 40 and above to make themselves available for PSA check.
That's the prostate to check for prostate cancer, right?
Absolutely.
My wife has been on my neck to do that, and I have been. Anyway, Doc, I'm going to do that. I'm definitely going to do that in the next couple of days.
Yes. And of course, I was talking about pap smear for cervical cancer because after talking about breast cancer among women, you also talk about cervical cancer as the second most common. And it's going to be surprising to note that some of women that are working, presenting at our centers, some of them are hearing about cancer for the first time. As opposed to what obtains in the Western world, where this disease has been driven to the background due to, very robust
enlightenment
screening programs. And in addition to that, of course, vaccination is key.
Sadly, we're almost out of time. I have 20 seconds more before I wrap up. But I think what we will do after the elections, we probably would need to find time and have maybe the whole show because it's one conversation that is dear to my heart. But thank you very much, Mr. Dr. Anderu, for joining us on Nigeria Infos, the newsroom.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me around once again.
All right, guys, that's the much we have for you on the show today. Kudos to Emmanuel and Nena for a great production. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno. I'll see you guys next week.
Stay one step ahead with the latest.
And I want to assume that you would run because I want to give the listeners context for the conversation.
In 2019, you were running mate to Atiku Abubakar. What did you learn then that you will not repeat this time?
Yes, when is the president coming out to address us?
There's a few things. One, I have a burden and a passion for young people.
The fact that you have elected a man does not mean then you begin to order him around. The president will do whatever is good for the country at any given time.
Mr. Adeshino, isn't the president responsible to the people?
What should the next president do to root out stakeholders who are complicit?
You fire those that need to be fired are fired.
It's looking like a brand new Chelsea, attacking with so much fluidity. And what can you say about that, Martin? I know you follow Chelsea quite closely.
I live close to the Chelsea training ground. That's what you mean by that. I'm not.